صلى الله على إمام الأنبياء إلا الله 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 إلا الله.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Sisters Circle live this Ramadan 2021. And my name is Sister Amanah. I'm going to be with you every Sunday from 3 until 5 o'clock for the whole month. And my co-host, as always, is Sister Julie. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
How long have we even been here?
Oh,
We say this every year and I can never remember.
must be.
I've been here about 12 years now.
Must be 8 maybe for me.
Is it?
Maybe.
MashaAllah.
Maybe. I don't know. Time passes so quickly when you're enjoying yourself, doesn't it?
But this is our first time in this
In
more up-to-date studio.
Yes.
So
Looks like we're in space if you look at Facebook, doesn't it? Oh no, there's sparkly green bits and then, oh yeah. Oh, I don't know.
We're going to get distracted, aren't we, by
I know, I'll be looking, where am I now?
what's around us. We're going to get distracted. But welcome back to Sister Circle. It's always lovely to have you join us, and we love being here as well. Over the years, we've talked about many different topics, and we've got some really lovely topics coming to you this month as well. We've got some lovely guests going to be joining us, not today, but inshallah in future shows. And today we thought we would just bring some old advice to the modern era, because a lot of people, they question how I can't do this. They talk about how relevant the Quran is, how relevant is Islam. It was, it came such a long time ago. How is it possibly relevant to us today? How does the rules, the regulations, the context, how could it possibly matter to us today in the world we live in today, which is full of, as you can see around us, technology. The world has advanced so much. We have things around us in our lifetime that at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, he didn't have. But we have to remember that Allah knew, even though the Prophet didn't know, Allah knew, and he designed Islam to be timeless. So we thought today that we would bring old advice into new times and look at how Islam is inspirational for us and very relevant for us today, as much as it was all those years ago when it was given to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the cave by Angel Gabriel. Now, one of the things that we see a lot of on social media is it's like meme city, isn't it? You see meme after meme after meme, quote after quote after quote. This celebrity says this, this actor says this footballer says this, this model says this. It goes on, and people who have modern day celebrity status get known for saying certain things, which is good, especially if it's a good, if it's a good quote, if it's something that's positive or inspirational. But I think as Muslims, we too often forget that we have the most inspirational people for the entire globe, for the entire time that the population is going to be here on earth. We have the best celebrities, the best guys, the best inspiration. And I think we get distracted from these a lot because we're so bombarded with pop culture, media culture, film culture. Somebody for their physique, somebody for their wealth, somebody for their property, somebody for their status, somebody for their ability, somebody for their knowledge. And we forget how important the guidance is that we've already had. Now, we are very fortunate. We have a lot of, this isn't probably the best way to explain it, but we do have a lot of Islamic celebrities as well. We have a lot of speakers that become very well known amongst the Muslim community, and their names get promoted between us, and we promote their works and how they try to keep reviving Islam or reviving the Sunnah as well. But we had them over time as well. And I know that you haven't watched it, Julie.
I know.
And you know what I'm going to say, because I've asked you so many times.
We've discussed it.
But for anybody who has watched the Turkish series of Ertuğrul, Dirilis Ertuğrul, or even the follow-on of Osman, this is such an inspirational program to watch, and not just because it shows the rise of the Ottoman Empire, it shows the strength of the Muslims when they came together, but because of the quotes that appear in this program. So I'm sure most people listening have watched Ertuğrul, either all of it or part of it, or at least like yourself have only heard of it.
Yeah.
However, what it's really good for is it constantly displays the ayats, it recites ayats from Quran, it shows hadith, it references certain scholars, certain imams, certain people of history. It references Prophet Muhammad a lot, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It portrays the Islamic way to do a lot of things. And it's a TV program. No TV isn't fantastic for us. But in terms of all the TV programs that are out there, in terms of, the Bollywood dramas or the Coronation and EastEnders and things like this, Ertuğrul is such a refreshing series to watch because of its Islamic content. And there are not many like that.
No.
And this is what we see on social media a lot as well, where we see this celebrity says this footballer is promoting this person of status is promoting that. And we forget how many people in Islam, both today and in recent history and in long-term history, and obviously as well the Hadith and the Quran, we have this for advice. And again, especially the non-Muslims, they question quite a lot that how could possibly an old religion be so relevant today? And not just in terms of Islam, but in terms of Christianity, Hinduism, Sikhism, all of them. How could they possibly?
That's often thrown at any religion, isn't it? It's like how it's irrelevant anymore. It's all come from the distant past.
It was important for their time.
And it was, it doesn't take into account social changes and technology changes and how the human beings have changed. I don't agree that human beings have changed particularly that much. I think human beings and the human condition is exactly and precisely the same as it was at the time of the emergence of all of the major religions. And bearing in mind that, Judaism, Christianity and Islam are all one and the same if you follow the route. But it's often a one of the things that's thrown at religions is irrelevant in today's modern world.
Definitely. But I'm hoping that in today's in today's broadcast of Sister Circle, I'm hoping that inshallah anybody that has that doubt, we can renew it.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we can share some old wisdom and explain how it's relevant today. So I have a really, really lovely book. And it's called, for anybody that's interested, it's called Timeless Seeds of Advice. And I was just explaining to Sister Julie how this book includes everything from ayats to hadith to scholars and imams that have passed away to those that are still with us today. And it's such a beautiful book with beautiful advice based on the modern day Muslim. So I thought we would read out some of the quotes and then discuss them basically and help people understand how they are so important today as much as they were when they were first said. And I've got to begin with the very first page of the book, and it has the word hope And then it says, in sujood, prostration, I found my home. And I just think that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Because we often feel we are missing something. We often feel, and I know that I do this personally, I sometimes have this feeling where I want to go home. And sometimes I'm in my home when I feel it, which is really strange. Because if you're not home, when we travel and we go away from home, whether it's a holiday or with work, we quite often think, I miss home.
Yeah.
Whether that's home with parents, home with our husband or wife, or children, or it's just the place that we live. Sometimes we just have that longing to go back.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced it, I sometimes feel like I want to go home when I'm under my own roof. I just have that feeling of I want to be home. And when I read that statement of in sujood, I found my home, that really resonated with me because I felt that's what I'm thinking when I feel I want to go home.
Yeah.
It's not a building.
Yeah.
But actually it's
a
my
state.
connection.
Yeah.
Of Islam. So maybe other people feel like that, maybe they don't, maybe it's just me that's a bit strange like that. But so the first one I'm going to start with, now this is really lovely. I'm going to read this out, and it says, for everything you lose there is a replacement, but for Allah, if you lose him, there is no replacement.
SubhanAllah.
Now, over our lifespan, we will gain and we will lose a lot of things.
Yes.
Whether it's people and we lose them to death, whether it's an object and it's stolen, or we lose it, we misplace it,
Breaks.
it breaks. It could be a job. We might be made redundant. We might be just sacked because that job isn't suitable. We could lose. We could lose absolutely anything.
It's happening all the time, isn't it? We're gaining and losing things all the time. It's
all
just,
the time.
It's the nature of life and living, isn't it?
But one of the things we know from Islam is that Allah says to us that anything that He takes away from us, He will replace it with something better.
Yes.
So one of the things that we have to think about is, if we do lose something, quite often that thing that we lose can be replaced. If we lose a bag, we can replace a bag. If we lose some money, we can earn through work and earn some more money. A lot of things can be replaced, whether with something better or something equal. However, if we lose Allah, either by His displeasure in us or us purposely losing our connection with Him, He's not replaceable. We can't take Allah away and replace Him with another deity, because He is the only deity. And to worship anything else except Allah is a major sin in our religion. And obviously what are our other options? If we don't worship Allah, what are our other options? What else can we worship? If we worship a celebrity, a human, they're going to die at some point. What will we worship when they die?
What's the point of worshipping something that is the whole point of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He is completely different from us. He has ultimate power over us. Whereas why would you effectively worship a celebrity who is a human and has the same, if not more, frailties than the rest of us have?
Exactly.
It's just why would you I think it's not so much their worship, this kind of celebrity. We could call it worship, but it's people worship the position they are in, and the position they found themselves in, and think that by gaining that position, they that's how you get happiness.
The thing about we have to remember is, if we look up to somebody who has some status or appears to have some power, even they've been gifted that from Allah. So absolutely, really, we should be looking at it. Should inspire us more to connect with Allah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this person has achieved this, because Allah blessed them with the ability, with the skills, with the opportunity to do those things. So rather than being kind of infatuated with this with that person, we should look and go, if that person has a really good connection with Allah,
Yeah.
and that Allah has helped them to attain these things, I need to build on my connection.
Yes.
And then maybe, Allah willing, He will grant me these things
Yes.
as well, and grant me this opportunity. And it's really difficult to do, because we get so blinded by the glitz and glamour of current society.
Yeah.
And that kind of, I think we forget that people are still really working hard, and the people who have excess money, have excess stardom, fame, fortune, all of these things, people that own houses in many countries, yet they can only live in one house at a time. And Allah says that if you, you will be tested with everything that I give you.
Yes.
So if we have 2 or 3 houses, yet we only reside in one at a time, and the other ones stand empty, waiting for us to visit, while our neighbors are sleeping on the street, while we know of people who are homeless or who are struggling to pay the bills in the house that live in, and we don't offer them ease by sharing what the blessings we have been given, that's a huge, huge trial on us.
Yeah.
Because we always associate somebody who's going through difficulty as being tested from Allah. So somebody who is struggling to pay the bills because they've lost a job, or struggling to keep the home because they can't afford to do so, Allah's testing them.
Yeah.
But actually, when Allah has blessed you with so much, that's a huge test too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
the
He's
tests
testing
don't
you.
stop, do they? Because you seem to have an abundance of something rather than a lack of something. Test is still there, and it's interesting, isn't it, that you kind of that people are admired for the position that they have got themselves in, or they find themselves in, but it isn't. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that situation for them to be in. There is always somebody out there who's going to be cleverer, and to be able to get, if cleverness is what got them, that they think got themselves in that position. But there are plenty of people who are cleverer who don't get themselves into that position because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't arrange the situation for that to happen for them. Everything is, it's that people can convince themselves that they have got to that position, they have got that wealth, they have got that whatever, and there's that feeling of control, that they have a control over how a situation panned out, and it's absolutely, we all have that feeling though, that we have some control. We don't have any. None at all. And it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has all the control, and there's a real forgetting that's how people find themselves in this position. It's not their hard work. They worked hard, but it's not their hard work that got them where they were. Because there are people who work just as hard and who are just as clever, and who are and who could have got there, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided that for them that wasn't their course.
Definitely. I mean, just to read the quote again, it says, for everything you lose, there is a replacement. But for Allah, if you lose Him, there is no replacement. And the ultimate goal of our life is to earn Allah's pleasure, to be able to, then for our own gain, be able to make it into Jannah. And how are we going to make it into Jannah if we lose our connection with Allah?
Yeah, that's the disastrous situation.
So our goal of this life isn't to attain wealth, popularity, status, any of those things. And that doesn't mean we shouldn't try and attain these things. It doesn't mean they are wrong.
No.
It just means that our ultimate goal of this world is to be able to win our place in Jannah. And if we lose our connection with Allah through the process, then we've lost sight of the goal, and we won't be granted it. Allah says, remember me and I will remember you. So if we forget Him, surely it turns back and says, forget me and I will forget you. As that quote just says, if we lose our connection with Allah, there's no replacement. There's nothing else that we can take in its place. And if we, as we mentioned earlier, if we were to take an idol, if we were to take another false god, our place in Jannah is cancelled. How will we get there? Only Allah can say who can enter and who cannot. So if we lose our connection with Allah, then ultimately we lose our connection with our goal of making it into Jannah. And that's quite a scary situation to be in. I mean, think about how sad it feels when you lose connection with somebody, with a friend.
Yes.
And we gain and lose friends through our whole life. So maybe you were at school with somebody and university and college, and you did all them years, but then you got married and moved away or something like that, or somebody that you were especially close to. Now you just kind of say hello and goodbye to, and you miss that friend. If you miss that friend, Allah is our best friend.
Yeah.
So what do we do if we lose him? If imagine the upset if you lose a friend for whatever reason, your friendship gets broken just due to human error, and that's just a friend.
Yeah.
The importance of Allah over a friend is ultimately so much more. So I just thought that was a really beautiful thing to read out. I'm going to move on to the next one. This says, in the moments of, sorry, I should probably say where these are, shouldn't I? Let me just, that first quote, for everything you lose, there is a replacement, but for Allah, if you lose him, there is no replacement. This is by Ibn al-Qayyim. Some of these people I don't personally know, I'll be honest with you. Some of these names we will know, but we will go through them as we go along. This next one is from Tirmidhi, which is obviously one of the hadiths. And it says, in moments of sadness, Shaitan comes and wants you to let go of Allah. Faith in Allah does not take difficulty or sadness away, but it makes us strong enough to go through them without breaking. So, Shaitan wants us to be afraid.
Yes.
All the time he wants us to be afraid. And the current situation is a perfect example with the global pandemic. And some people are trying to get on regardless, but other people, they are staying in their homes really, really, really afraid. Yes. And whilst obviously the current situation isn't ideal for people, of course, but that extra fear, that's coming from Shaitan.
Yes.
To fear being near loved ones, to fear having communication, to fear even being in your garden and breathing in the air because you might get unwell.
Yes.
This is Shaitan. Because we have to bear in mind that
amplifying the natural
absolutely
fear,
our weakness as human beings is that we gain weakness and strength from those around us. So if we have good company, we become good company for others. If we are in bad company, we will ultimately become bad company for others as well. So somebody who may live on their own, or maybe it's two people who live together, and they are in that state of fear where they just do not leave the house, then their inspiration of good company is drastically removed.
Yes.
And it might not even be good company. It could be just to stay healthy, just to stay clean, just to keep on top of the house, just to eat well, but being isolated out of fear, that is Shaitan winning as well. And I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to belittle anybody's thoughts of the fear of getting ill or the pandemic or anything like that. But one of the quotes that I read recently, this isn't an Islamic quote, by the way, but one of the quotes that I read recently, I have no idea where it came from, and it said that I never thought I would see a time that people were so afraid of dying they forgot to live.
Yes.
And I read that and I just thought, wow, that is such a strong impact. But unfortunately, that is Shaitan whispering, because we know that the Quran tells us that some people went out to battle, and then other people asked for permission to stay home from the battle because they didn't want to risk being injured or risk their life for the cause of the battle. And they were told at that point, it doesn't matter if you stay in your home or if you go out to battle. If death is written for you, it will find you wherever you are. If you are on the battlefield, if you are in the cellar of your home, if death is written for you at that point, it will come for you. Doesn't matter where you are. So we shouldn't not go out in terms of in that particular story of not going out to fight in Allah's cause because we were fearing of that, with the fear of death. So it's the same with the current times as well. We shouldn't be so afraid of dying when dying is the only thing guaranteed. Death is the one thing Allah says, this is the one thing guaranteed for you at the time I have written for it. You can't delay it and you can't quicken it. It's going to come at its appointed time. So if we hide in our homes, and again, I'm gonna explain that I'm not suggesting everybody goes out and kind of flaunts the rules either. I'm not suggesting that, but what I am suggesting is to be aware that maybe your fear isn't actually what you're watching on the news, isn't what you're reading, but actually is the whispering of Shaitan, because the more he keeps you at home, the more he can weaken you. He can weaken your iman. He can weaken your relationships with family. He can weaken your relationships with support who would keep you on the right path. Shaitan can really instill that fear of not just your enemy, but of your friend.
Yes. Yeah, it is the times, isn't it, where, as you say, you can become afraid of the people who were closest to you because the fear of contagion. And it is entirely, as sort of mentioned earlier on, it's you don't have any control over certainly life or death, or so to be afraid of being with family and friends it's entirely Shaitan whispering in the ears. Also, of course, the media, and it's the mainstream media doesn't help, but the stuff that's on social media is just ridiculous. The stuff where there's no real news. It's there's supposed to be a war against fake news, but there's still plenty of fake news about on social media. Just ridiculous.
Fake news attacking fake news, basically.
Oh, it's crazy. But it's there's no amount of sort of any amount of rubbish that you can see that'll feed into that fear and magnify it. Shaitan must be rubbing his hands together. In the present climate, it just breeds. It's a perfect breeding ground for
absolutely
for fear.
But the second part of that quote, so I'll read it again. I'm going to read each quote several times because they're just so lovely. It says, in moments of sadness, Shaitan comes and wants you to let go of Allah. Faith in Allah does not take difficulty or sadness away, but it makes you strong enough to go through them without breaking. So the second part of that is just because we're Muslim, just because we believe in Allah, the last day, the angels, the book, the prophet, just because we have that belief, doesn't mean we won't experience sadness, doesn't mean we won't experience difficulty or hardship. But like this quote says, what it means is that faith, that belief in Allah will get us through
it. Yes.
And there is another quote that says, if Allah brings you to it, Allah will take you through it as well. And how could we expect to not be tested, to not experience difficulty and hardship in any way, when each of the prophets, they had the biggest of tests, the biggest of trials. And in terms of bringing old advice into today, each of the prophets had trial after trial after trial, and it wasn't things like we may assume as a trial today. What might be a trial for somebody today? They post something on Instagram and assume it's going to get 50 likes and it gets 1. And they get upset and it's, life isn't fair. Why is things so difficult for me? Somebody posted this same picture and they got 200 likes. Why can't I even get 1? this isn't difficult. This isn't hardship. This isn't life being unfair.
It just isn't
This
life.
is just wrong priorities. The times of the prophets, peace be upon him, Prophet Noah was told to build the ark when there was no water nearby. Prophet Adam was given the reign of complete everything that Allah had given him, but told to stay away from one thing. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was given the Quran and told to write, yet he was illiterate. So he had to memorize. How hard is it to memorize the Quran? It's so difficult, yet he was given this task. And all the prophets, every single one of them were tried and tested over and over.
The trials were just amazing, weren't they?
And we should, in times of our own difficulty, who was it? Prophet Yusuf, when he was thrown in the well and sold as a slave. His father was tested with the loss of his son, to the point where he cried so much that he lost his sight. Prophet Jonah, when he was swallowed by the whale. Prophet Ibrahim, when he was thrown into the fire, and Allah said, "Cool, be cool," and the fire became cool for him. They were tested beyond anything we can be tested with. And they were not angels. They were humans like us. Allah still, yes, he gave them ability, but they were still human as much as we are. But they had the biggest faith. They had the most faith in Allah, because they had, some of them even some of them had the ability to speak with him. Sometimes some of them received dreams to do things from Allah. So they had, unbreakable faith in that sense. And still they were tested. Still they were given the hardest trials. But Allah didn't promise them, well, if you believe in me and if you do this job for me, I'll make life easy, and I'll give you a mansion, and I'll give you money, and I'll give you wives, and I'll give you children, and I'll give you whatever it is that you desire. I'll give you everything. Allah tells us we can have this in Jannah, not in this world, but in the next. So that faith doesn't guarantee us an easy life. It means that we have the connection with Allah to know what we have to do to get through whatever it is. We believe that even the difficult things come from Allah. If Allah takes something away from us, Allah has taken it for a reason. It's not just, when it says, it may be that you like a thing.
Oh, yes,
that is bad for you. And you dislike a thing which is good for you. But, Allah plans and we plan, and Allah is the best of planners. So we have to remember that faith doesn't guarantee us an easy life. It just means that we have what we need, which is that connection with Allah, or the support of the Muslim people around us who will remind us. It's very important that when things are difficult, that your company, that your friends advise you correctly. This is really, really so important. Because what you don't want to do is, imagine you go to work and you have an argument with your employer or employee, whichever way it is. You have an argument with somebody at work, and you come home and you're furious and you're angry, and that anger where it really consumes the whole body, and you're shaking and you don't know what to do with yourself. If you meet with friends and they say, look, I can see how angry you are. You need a drink. You need a cigarette. You need a night out. This isn't obviously good advice. Or somebody who listens and says, okay, tell me what happened with this argument. So you tell them, and their response is, who does that person think they are? How dare that person speak to you that way? You need to go to work tomorrow, and you need to have it out with that person, and you need to say, excuse me, sit down, I'm going to tell you this. And then that argument of the first day is escalated by the second day, because you've got a friend behind you cheerleading you on to go and really, not think rationally, but to think with anger, to think with upset.
Or feed into the emotion that's already there, and amplify it, really. Yeah.
You what you need is a friend that says, hang on, you're
Yes.
angry. Did you pray? Go pray. Go and do 2 rakah, or
Yeah.
it's Zohar Asr time. Go and read that. Do some extra prayer. Just calm down first. Sit down. Have some water. You know, maybe this person had a bad day. Maybe this person is going through something that you don't know about. Maybe there is something else going on. Why don't you go to work tomorrow? Take the person a gift and just say, look, I know we had a disagreement tomorrow, but until that point, actually, we worked together quite fine.
Yeah.
So here's a gift from me. Let's just leave it there. Let's just carry on working together. You need a friend who's going to help you cool down,
Yes.
be calm, because that anger and that fieriness is from Shaitan. It's
Absolutely,
not from Allah. And he likes to make us forget Allah as well.
Yeah. It likes to make us perpetuate that state, that angry state. So we block out everything else. And that angry state, there's these negative emotions. It's all very self-centered, isn't it? It's like me. This has happened to me. And again, it doesn't allow you to think about the other person. You know, what's their situation? If you've worked together with somebody for that length of time and then suddenly you have that disagreement, well, what's happening with them? Yeah, to think bigger, but the negative emotions don't allow you to do that. But to sit down and control yourself.
It is a very selfish world now.
Yes.
Compared to what it used to be. And I worry personally for my children growing up into, you see it in the playground when you take your children to a park and perhaps the swings are full and your child is stood waiting for their turn and somebody jumps off and you see the child's face light up, oh, it's my turn. And then some other kid will just come and run off something else that hasn't been stood patiently waiting and jump on that swing. And, you know, you have a choice at that moment to teach your child, it's okay, just carry on being patient. Somebody else will come off soon. Or you can go over and teach your children to be angry and say, oi, you.
Yeah.
My child was here first. Yeah. What are you doing? What's going to happen in that situation? Quite often, the parent of the child that you're now shouting at is going to see you shouting at their child. They're going to come over, and now you've got 2 adults arguing. So whilst I'm not suggesting it makes it okay what this other child did, it doesn't, of course.
Yeah.
But we have to think about how we deal with
how's
it.
The escalation?
The child will watch that and learn. And what you don't want is, and I've seen this happen where 2 children have argued over a swing and then 2 mums have got involved and then 2 dads have got involved. And dads don't argue verbally. Mums will argue verbally. Dads can get a bit more physical, a bit more pushy shovey. It's the you know, it's that maleness, isn't it, to physically defend their family a bit stronger. And over a swing.
Yeah, I know.
Over a swing, you know, and yes, approach the child softly. Excuse me, I hope you don't mind, my child was waiting first. You know, but to not get into that conflict so easily, because at the end of the day, the swing doesn't belong to anybody.
No.
And it is just a swing, and there are other things in the playground to play with. But I'm just trying to explain how that selfishness happens even as young as with children in the playground, and not necessarily just as adults as well. And we can nurture that selfishness in children, or we can do our best to encourage selflessness in children. You know, we know from Islam that if food for 1 will suffice for 2, and food for 2 will suffice for 3, and so on. So if a child has, you know, 1 sweet, even like suggest they have it, suggest, well, I don't have any more, but you know what, actually in the kitchen I have something else, would you like that instead? But encourage them to give. It's really, really hard in modern day times to do some of those things, because again, that celebrity status is, look what I have.
Yes, it's all about
that
stuff,
that accumulation of stuff. Absolutely. And you know, when what happens to that stuff when you pass away?
Yeah, becomes
So
somebody else's stuff.
That stuff that you collect, this is my stuff. Don't you? Your stuff's over there. My stuff is over here. And if I leave the room, you must not go through my stuff because it's mine. And you know, you can't take any of my stuff. You can't borrow any of my stuff. You can't look at my stuff. It's because it's mine. And even if though I'm not using it, even though it's in the box and it's been in that box for 10 years, and I probably might not use it for another 10 years.
Probably forgotten what's in it.
It's still my box of stuff that I've collected, and I don't want you to have it, even though you might use it. It's still my stuff. But when we pass away, all the stuff we have accumulated, guess what happens? Somebody has to go through it. Somebody has to sort it. That stuff that you kept as it's mine. Somebody has to go through it and make the decision if it's important stuff, if it's charity bag stuff, if it's inheritance type stuff,
bin stuff,
if it's bin stuff. Somebody has to decide. And imagine that you were able to come back as a ghost, as some people, I know we don't do it in Islam, but you know how we see it, that ghosts come back and they'll watch people. And imagine the horror of you watching somebody go,
that's my stuff.
Why is that going in the bin? That you know, still holding on to that context that that's my stuff. Even though it is just stuff. And we accumulate so much of it.
I was it's interesting because I was it's just kind of feeding into. I was listening to a podcast yesterday about Stoic philosophy. Now, it's the thing is that it's like, because Islam tells us, you know, gives us ways to be happy, and it's got nothing to do with stuff. But the thing is that I suppose that Islam doesn't have you know, the monopoly on finding how to be happy. It's, you know, people stumble upon facets of this, and I think probably Stoic philosophy has stumbled upon a facet of it. It's not Islam. It's certainly, you know, the big thing it says is memento mori, is remember death. So, you know, and it's all about basically it's about that the stuff that seems to matter to everybody is the stuff that really doesn't matter to everybody. So, you know, how much food you've got, how much food you've got, but how much stuff you have, your status, your money, all that stuff that everybody worries about. And the stuff that that's really important is time, in that, you know, how you use your time, and you will never get that back. You know, whatever your birthday is next, you've effectively done it. And it was the guy that was on the podcast was saying, you know, about, you know, everyone thinks your average, you know, lifespan is 78 years. Averages mean nothing to individuals. And that's, you know, so even if you do get to your average lifespan of 78 years, if you're 58, you've already died 58 years. That's all gone. You've only got that bit left. Even if you were guaranteed, which we're not, to get to whatever age it is, you know, and people are profligate with the stuff that they really shouldn't be, which is time. Every second should count. And the stuff that they really worry about is the stuff that means nothing. You know, what does, you know, how big your house is, how does that benefit when you're dead? Or, you know, the posthumous stuff, who cares? You're dead. You know, it's all about that philosophy that how to be happy is to realize you have no control over what happens. We might feel like we've got control, so there's that element of kind of reflects Islam, and that you have control over yourself, how you feel, which is a lot of what Islam does as well, isn't it? It's like, you know, if you see somebody, see somebody that looks like they're doing something that would be against Islam, another Muslim, you make excuses for them. And if you can't find an excuse for them, you think, well, perhaps they have got an excuse that I can't think of, because you have control over how you think about that person, and you have control over your anger. You have, you know, going away and saying, you know, reading Salah and then coming back and giving yourself a chance to calm down. You're controlling how you feel. So it's interesting how, although it's not Islam, which is the complete package, some of these philosophies find bits of what Islam teaches. And, you know, how to be happy is to know what enough is.
to be content
Yeah,
inside.
absolutely. It's contentment, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is like you're not worrying about what's happened in the past. You're not worrying about what you can have, get, do, what's going to happen in the future. Is to be, you're in the moment and you're content with now. And to be, so yeah, it's all very interesting that none of this, in Stoic philosophy comes from Greek and Roman times, so predates Islam, but absolutely runs flat in the face of everything that's pop culture, popular culture, and media is telling us about what makes you happy. The exact opposite. But yeah, there's no way to be happy about chasing objects, because we've got no control over whether we get there anyway.
And that stuff that we leave behind when we pass away doesn't really comfort the person who's going to miss you the most anyway.
No,
if anything, they probably find it quite difficult to have to go through the stuff.
I've done it. It is very difficult.
What do you do at that point? And then knowing that you've got to part with it as well just makes it really more difficult. So we should probably focus on collecting less stuff. Yeah. I use the word stuff, but it describes so much whilst describing so little at the same time. But we should be collecting. When you think about children and they have these reward charts, don't they? So they do something good at school and they get a star on their reward chart, and then they get so many stars and then they get a certificate.
Yeah.
And then they get so many certificates and they get a bigger certificate, or they get a pencil, or it kind of like goes on, doesn't it? And it's the same process really in terms of work. You get a job, and if you do so well, you might get a promotion. If you continue doing so well, you might get another promotion, and I'll be given more authority, or be given more responsibility. But as we collect this stuff, if only we thought about collecting maybe times that we held our patience instead of speaking angrily, which is so difficult, so difficult to do. Times where we give charity, maybe we didn't want to, but we did because it was the right thing to do. Maybe a good deed that we did to somebody that we didn't tell anybody about, or even a good deed that we told everybody about, whichever. But we should be really trying to collect these types of things, and we can share these as stories to our children or grandchildren, or or to friends. And rather than sharing stuff, so buying them stuff, think about sharing experiences. I went to this place and this happened, and it had this really positive, good outcome. That might inspire somebody to do something similar, a similar act of kindness, or give a similar donation, or a similar good deed. Memories of this type of thing are really good. But I don't know about you when you were younger, and this predates my Islam for me. When we used to go on a holiday, we used to collect fridge magnets. We used to collect postcards. And it got to the point where every person in your family had several fridge magnets from everywhere, to the point where the family was saying, please, no more fridge magnets, because
we know where you're going.
It was just one more thing to clean. And the fridge was full of these fridge magnets. Or I remember people collecting types of ornaments, Swarovski crystal ornaments. People collect those. There are certain porcelain dolls or porcelain dogs. People collect those. There was, when I was young, there was the bunny. There was like this little, there was a name for them. There was these little bunny figures, sort of like a thumper bunny.
Yeah.
Reading a book or in bed or whatever. People collected those. And when you think about it, some people have 20, 30, 40, 50 of these things that cost hundreds, if not thousands of pounds. And then they outgrow them and they go in the box.
Yep.
And it's like, what I'll do is, when I pass away, I'll pass these down to my son or daughter, who will open that box and go, great, I have 50 bunny ornaments. Yeah. I'll just put them in the box, and what I'll do is I'll pass them down to... And these ornaments get passed on and passed on and passed on because they're of no use. They're of no value.
Yep.
But it's just that sentiment of respect that we hold on to these things. So we should start collecting moments, memories, deeds, experiences rather than stuff. So another quote that I have, which now this is by Imam Shafi, and he said, there is a verse in the Quran that every wrongdoer should be terrified of. And he was asked, which verse is that? And he replied, and your Lord never forgets.
Mm.
Now, again, I read that and I thought, that's quite deep, because sometimes we remember when somebody's done something wrong against us.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we forget it for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and then a trigger happens and we remember that thing again.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a period of point where we don't think about it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But Allah doesn't forget.
Mm-hmm.
So when on Judgment Day and He calls us to account for everything we have done,
Yeah.
we're going to be in a lot of trouble, because there's going to be so many things that we either, one, didn't consider to be a sin, or didn't consider to be a problem, or didn't consider to be anything bad, or two, we just forgot about it.
Yeah.
And Allah didn't.
Mm-hmm.
He remembered, and it's written down. The angels will write it down anyway. But Allah didn't forget. So yes, we could use that as a good way as well. He didn't forget the good things we did. And He's all merciful, and we have to hope that on the Day of Judgment, Allah's mercy is bigger than His anger.
Yeah.
But and your Lord never forgets. So,
and there's also that hadith about on the Day of Judgment, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show us our book of deeds, and some of the things that we did that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will know about will not be in our book of deeds, that he chooses not to put them in our book of deeds. So that's part of that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't necessarily forget, but might not necessarily put it in our book of deeds either, which I think we could all do with a bit of.
I think it's quite an important thing to remember, because also we are told to, if we do make a mistake, to ask for forgiveness.
Absolutely,
astaghfirullah. It's so important that we acknowledge something may have been a sin.
Yeah.
Whether that is recent, or whether it's just something we remember from the past and we think, actually, now that I've gained more knowledge and a better understanding of myself and of Islam, I realize that 5 years ago I may have acted in a way that wasn't correct or wasn't the best way to react, and then still ask for forgiveness. There's no time on asking for forgiveness. You don't have to ask immediately after the mistake. You have to ask when you realize it was a mistake, when you realize that you did something. And if you're unsure, still ask for forgiveness anyway.
Yeah.
Because rather than thinking, no, that was okay, I'm fine.
Yeah. If you're doubtful, then
it's better to err on the side of caution than to assume it was okay. And not all of our mistakes are obvious. Sometimes it can be. We know from Islam that we are one of I think we're the only religion actually where we can gain reward purely on our intention.
Yes. Yeah.
Even if the action failed, even if,
or you forgot,
or we forgot to do something, or we were obstructed from doing that thing for whatever reason.
Didn't happen. Yeah.
But our intention was to do that thing. We still get the reward of the intention. And how many other religions can say that their God or their belief system says this? They rely on acquiring the good deeds or the good actions. We can simply intend it. Obviously, I can't get up in the morning and sit on the sofa and go, I intend to clean my whole house, cook a massive banquet, look fabulous, like I've, made an effort, call everybody in the family, message all my friends, be the best person to everybody that I meet, and, make it unrealistic.
Yeah.
Because it's not sincere. We don't mean it. We're just trying to play on words and understanding.
It's a cynical.
It has to be a sincere intention, and then Allah will reward us whether we are successful in that action or not. So we have to remember that as well. So not only will Allah not forget our actions, but our intentions as well. And just as we might have a good intention, we might have a bad intention too. In that moment of anger, our scenario earlier where we were at work and we had a fallout with a colleague. So maybe on the way home, the intention is, as soon as I get home, I'm going to call that person up and I'm going to tell that person off for what they did. I'm going to argue with that person. That person was wrong. I'm going to make sure they know they were wrong, because you're so angry and you have that bad intention. But then by the time you get home and you speak to a friend or family member who is a good influence and has reminded you to take some water, read your prayers, just calm down, think things through, then that intention is wiped away.
Yes.
Because you didn't see it through and it was a bad intention. So how amazing is it that if we have a good intention and we fail to do it, we still get the reward of that intention. But if we have a bad intention and we choose not to go through with that bad intention, we are rewarded
amazing,
for not going through with that bad intention.
It is amazing.
So Allah's mercy is just beyond anything that we can comprehend. And I'll read it out one more time, just because I want to read everything out. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam always repeated himself 3 times. So I have no shame in repeating myself. I think every mother and father can probably appreciate how many times you have to repeat to children as
repeat
well.
Lessons.
It's a lot more than 3 times normally. There's only so many times you can get your shoes on or get your jacket on.
Time is not elastic.
So, but Imam Shafi'i remarked, there is a verse in the Quran that every wrongdoer should be terrified of. He was asked, what verse is that? He replied, and your Lord never forgets. And for reference, that's in the Quran, Surah 19, verse 64.
I'd like to just to add something to that. If you ask for forgiveness, something from the story of Prophet Musa, that when he killed that man in Egypt, and the first thing he did was he asked for forgiveness, and then he moved on. He was like, he asked for forgiveness, trusted that he'd been forgiven, and moved on. And that's obviously he killed somebody. So
because again, Shaitan wants to remind you of your weaknesses and remind you, maybe Allah didn't forgive you. Maybe you're a bad person. Maybe you're not going to go to Jannah anyway. So continue doing the bad things, because if
feeling bad about whatever it is you've done.
And there's nothing worse than chaining yourself up, mentally and emotionally over a mistake that you made. But that's when Shaitan does come, doesn't he? And he tries to convince you that you're a bad person, rather than having that hope in Allah that actually you're a good person.
You've asked for forgiveness. You trust in Allah that you've been forgiven, and you move on.
100%. Now, before we don't get forgiven by the radio station for not taking an ad break, we're going to take an ad break because we've talked a lot. But before we go to an ad break, I'm going to just read out some of the messages that we've got. So we had Sufi Abdul Karim Ali said, "Mashallah, beautiful message for everyone. Jazakallah khair." We also got a message of Sof Max, who says, so true, sis. Jazakallah khair for listening, Sophie. We have another message of Sufi Abdul Karim Ali again, and he said, great platform for community discussion, CVFM Middlesbrough, North East UK. He also said, Islam means peace for all humanity. And he also said, salam everyone, Ramadan Mubarak to everybody. So thank you, Sufi Abdul Karim Ali, for all of your messages and for listening. Thank you, Sophie Max, for listening as well. We do welcome your comments and we will read them out, inshallah, as we remember to. Please do talk to us. We like to talk to you. We like to talk to each other as well.
We do.
Especially under the last year where you haven't seen people. It's just when you do get to talk to somebody, I think you try and speak everything that you haven't spoke for the last 12 months. And
I've been saving up.
Get a little bit too excited, isn't it, really? Okay, so we are going to go to a break now. Please stay tuned to Sister Circle with myself, Sister Amanah, and Sister Julie. We are going to be here with you for another hour. So please Stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Be with you back very shortly.
CVFM Ramadan Live in association with Borough Carpets, offering every customer a red carpet welcome.
अब हम आहिस्ता आहिस्ता लॉकडाउन से बाहर आ रहे हैं। अब हम दोबारा बाहर मिल भी सकते हैं। 6 लोगों के साथ पार्क में पिकनिक, लेकिन अपने अपने कंबल और आपस में बहुत सारा फासला रखकर। लेकिन अचानक कोई दोस्त दिख जाए तो उसे साथ आने की दावत ना देना बुरा लगेगा ना। लेकिन ज्यादा लोगों से मिलने का मतलब है कोविड-19 के होने का ज्यादा खतरा। इसलिए सिर्फ 6 लोगों तक के ग्रुप्स या 2 खानदान आपस में मिल सकते हैं। आइए इस अगले कदम को इंतहाई एहतियात से उठाएं। याद रखिए, हैंड्स, फेस, स्पेस एंड फ्रेश एयर।
ऐ वतन वतन मेरे आबाद रहे तो मेरी मंजिल है।
हर किसी की मंजिल वतन कॉन्टिनेंटल स्टोर ही तो है। वतन कॉन्टिनेंटल स्टोर, जहां पर आपको मिलेगा ताज़ा गोश्त, चिकन, फल और सब्जियां, तमाम मसाला जात, आला वैरायटी बेकरी का सामान। इसके अलावा किचन के तमाम बर्तन भी दस्तयाब हैं। इस रमजान आएं और हमारी स्पेशल ऑफर्स का भरपूर फायदा उठाएं। आपके मुंतजिर वतन कॉन्टिनेंटल स्टोर।
Within Continental Store, 26 to 30 Northcote Street, Stockton-on-Tees. Telephone 01642649400.
हाय, मेरा सारा सोने का जेवर चोरी हो गया।
बाजी, आपने घर पे कैमरे नहीं लगवाए थे?
कैमरे?
जी हाँ, आपकी और आपके सामान की हिफाजत के लिए ये जरूरी है कि आपके घर में जदीद सिक्योरिटी कैमरा और अलार्म सिस्टम लगा हो।
Twin Security Systems is your one-stop for all your security needs. Specialists in alarms, CCTV for home or business, and even vehicle CCTV and tracking systems installed for your peace of mind. All brands supplied and fitted by our team of experts. We also offer PAT testing and all your electrical needs. LED security lighting, installation and maintenance. Twin Security Systems are checked and vetted approved, so you know you're getting a quality workmanship guaranteed. For a no obligation free quotation, telephone us on 01642 687070. That's 687070. Twin Security Systems, keeping you safe.
ज़हनी सुकून के लिए ट्विन सिक्योरिटी से आज ही राब्ता कीजिए।
मामा, आज मैंने घर का खाना नहीं खाना, मैं रोज रोज खा के तंग आ चुकी।
बेटा आप फिक्र न करें, आज हम सरकार एक्सप्रेस से ऑर्डर करेंगे।
जब खाने की बात हो तो सरकार एक्सप्रेस को कैसे भूल सकते हैं। फास्ट फूड की दुनिया में एक मुनफरद नाम, जायका सबसे आला, क्वालिटी की तो बात ही अलग है।
Sarkar's Express. Try our amazing food today. Pizzas, burgers, kebabs, parmesans and more. Amazing meal deals and signature kebabs are also available. Sarkar's Express. 283 Martin Road, Middlesbrough. Telephone 01642 500 152, or you can order online at sarkarsexpress.co.uk.
शादी तो मैं करूंगी, लेकिन एक शर्त है, योर इवेंट्स नॉर्थ ईस्ट की प्लानिंग के साथ।
योर इवेंट्स नॉर्थ ईस्ट फिर कबूल है।
Your Events Northeast, helping to make your events and special occasions extra special. Whether you're planning a small and intimate wedding or something of a grander scale, let our experienced team make it a stress-free experience for you. We can take care of all the arrangements from flower walls, cakes, fruit displays, chocolate fountains, dessert tables, photography, videography and so much more. Call us now on 077 141 99453 to discuss your requirements, or visit youreventne.co.uk and check out our social media accounts at yourevents.ne.
मम्मी भूख लगी, मम्मी खाना दो।
मम्मी आज आपको कुछ भी नहीं देने जा रही, क्योंकि पापा ने किया हुआ है इफ्तार स्पेशल ऑर्डर हमजा से।
Hamza's Iftar Special. Meal serves 5 for £25 or 10 for £35 and includes starters and main. Starters, chicken shahi kebab, fish pakora, barbecue chicken drumsticks. Main course, ichari gosht or mid curry, vegetable curry, chicken rice, portion pakora, naan or roti, salad and chutney. Hamza's 107 to 109 Waterloo Road, Middlesbrough. Telephone 01642 244 255 for your orders. Orders must be placed 2 hours before iftar.
Across Middlesbrough and Teesside, this is 104.5 CVFM Ramadan Live.
live from the heart of Middlesbrough. This is CVFM Ramadan Live.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Sister Circle live this Ramadan with myself, Sister Amanah, and Sister Julie. And we've been talking about old age advice in the modern times. So we're looking for Islamic inspiration.
Islamic inspiration is better than memes.
Better than memes, yeah.
Better
Modern
than
day
memes.
memes, especially when the memes are by celebrities and overpaid footballers and so on. Nothing against footballers, but just saying. Anyway,
Just saying.
So for anyone that's just joining us, what we're doing is we are talking about rather than using the quotes and memes that you see from celebrities on social media, we are using quotes from Islamic history, whether that be ayats, hadiths, or just people that we know within the Muslim community. So I've got some really lovely quotes that I've been reading out, and then we've been discussing how they are relevant today as much as when they were written, whenever it was they were written, whether it was at the time of Islam or whether it is more recently. And this one is really lovely. Now, this is a hadith, it's in Tirmidhi, and it's Ibn al-Qayyim, and he said, this world, I love this, he said, this world is like a shadow. Run after it and you will never be able to catch it. Mm-hmm. Turn your back against it and it has no choice but to follow you. I love it. I really do. Because we do chase the world. We chase the world, what it has to offer and everything in it. Mm-hmm. We chase it thinking that if we just get that degree, we will be happy.
Yeah.
If we just get that job, we will be happy. If we just get that car, the 2-seater sports car, convertible with the twin turbo or whatever, we will be happy. If we just get that husband or wife, we will be happy. If we just have children, we will be happy. If we just get that castle on a hill, we will be happy. However, as much as we pray and we ask Allah, Allah, please, I want this, and then He grants us it, and we receive it, right? Okay, I'm really happy, thank you. But now I also want the next thing. Yeah. And we keep chasing whatever is next.
So your happiness is contingent on an external object.
Yeah, we're happy for a while.
Yeah.
We're happy for a while. And I mean, it's natural as well, because the needs of us as a 5-year-old are not the same needs as us as a 15-year-old, 25-year-old, 50-year-old, and so on. Our needs change, and therefore our wants change. It doesn't mean that we're not allowed to want or need or need something. What it means is that we are chasing. We're chasing the material, the dunya, the people, when what we should be chasing is Allah's pleasure. We should be chasing our place in the hereafter. We should be, they say that if we, instead of trying to please people, if we try and please Allah, those who manage to please Allah, the people will also be pleased with them.
Yep, absolutely.
So the best way to please people actually isn't by doing whatever it is the people want you to do. It's by trying to please Allah. And then through Allah's love, people will automatically at that point be drawn to you, will like you, and so on. So we have to look at the bigger picture of doing that, really. But this world is like a shadow. Run after it and you will never be able to catch it, because whatever you catch will never be enough. You will always want what is next. Turn your back against it and it has no choice but to follow you.
Yeah. So you stop following the world and start following what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do. And if there's and following it, so I'm going to cough, sorry. Following what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do does mean that you turn your back on the world effectively. But
what the world wants us to do and what Allah wants to do can be two very, very different things.
We're chasing. When we're not chasing the dunya, though. We're chasing the akhirah, aren't we? So, in doing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do, we're looking for our reward in the akhirah. But in doing that, it makes you a better person in the dunya as well. So yeah, as it said, the world would have no choice but to follow you, because it's you did, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open those doors as well.
I think something I was thinking just yesterday. I'm just going to share it with everybody, and for the people that know me personally, they know that I like to be outdoors. For the people that don't know me, then I've just told you I like to be outdoors. And I'm a very outdoor person. I love to be completely immersed within nature. I like to be around things that are green, running water. A quote that I've always been really attached to as an individual is the quote, and it says that, and it's obviously it's a Christian quote. It's not an Islamic quote, but I still resonate with it. And it says that I would rather be on top of the mountains thinking about God than in church thinking about being on top of the mountains. And that really resonates with me, because I find that if I am inside somewhere, whether that be in my home or in a mosque, it's very, the connection is very different. I read my salah outside a lot, whether it's in my garden at home, whether I'm out on a trek somewhere. I at every opportunity, if the weather's fine, take water for wudu. There's always tayammum if you get completely stuck. I have a travel prayer mat. Obviously, find a place clean to pray. I've learned over the years how to know from the sun which direction is the prayer. So these things aren't an issue for me. They may be for somebody who isn't used to that, but for me, they're not an issue. And I love to pray outside. And recently, I did one of my prayers with another sister, and we were inside a castle. Or whether we were sheltered by a bit of a castle roof, but we were still outside.
Like a ruin, wasn't it? Yeah.
And it was snowing, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Then I prayed, let me think where else, because I've prayed that many places outside with that many different people. I prayed the other week.
We were on top of a very big hill the other day.
Oh, I knew I was thinking of somewhere. We actually prayed together, didn't we? On just a few nights ago, we were looking for the halal moon, and we read on top of a hill, and we could hear the birds chirping, and we were waiting for, Maghrib time had gone actually, and we were reading Maghrib up there, and the sun was setting. That was really beautiful. There was another time I read on a golf course. The golf course wasn't in use at the time, which is why we decided to read there, because it was clean. And I took off my socks and shoes, and the ground just felt amazing. And just being outside, but even in the garden, to be honest, just on a nice day, when it's time for prayer, take your prayer to the garden and just be barefoot on the grass, and just that connection with nature really amplifies your connection with Allah, because how can you look at nature and not understand who created it?
Yeah.
And how complex it is when you do climb, whether it be a hill or a mountain, but when you're on top and you look down at the view and you look up at the sky and you realize the two don't meet. The sky isn't crushing the earth isn't reaching up into the sky. How the birds that fly in front of you are just midway between the earth and the clouds, and they can just hover or take that flight.
Yeah.
How can you not look at these things and wonder who created it?
Yeah.
How? You can't. It's not as inspiring when you're in front of a wall.
No.
It's, it's like, okay, I appreciate that Allah inspired a builder who was inspired to create brick and put it together and fashion my house for me. But it's not as inspiring as being out in nature direct.
And it's nice, isn't it, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed that, the whole world is our masjid. We don't have to just be in a masjid to pray. We can pray wherever the time, wherever we are at the time, as long as it's clean, and as long as it's not a toilet or a cemetery.
Well, no, I've from one of the sisters who I've had a few outdoor ventures with recently, and we've been visiting some old ruins, and mashallah, she had the information to share with me about when we were visiting these old ruins and castles, and when we were reading there, was to avoid the areas where we know that there are graves.
All right, yeah.
Which you might not be aware of, maybe is, but it's easily done and it's easily avoided. You just have to kind of have a little look around the area at which you decide to pray. I've prayed on the beach at Fajr and then waited for sunrise.
Ooh.
That is amazing. It really is. And it's not a selfish thing that takes me outside. It's not I want to witness the sunrise or I want to be around the trees. It's more of when I'm around nature, my connection to Allah is so much stronger, because when you look at, for example, say, for example, you're in a wood and how the trees are different. Some provide shelter, some provide food for animals, some are there just to be angry and to keep people away. They have different purposes, but the intricate detail. And when you stand in a wood or a forest where the trees are very established, them trees are older than you, your parents, your grandparents, and then their grandparents. They've seen several generations walk past them. They've seen several animals build their homes within them and then pass away, and then the next animal comes. They've seen so much. And we know from Islam as well that if we do zikr around things like the trees will testify for us on Judgment Day that as we were around them, we were doing zikr, we were remembering Allah as well. So they can be witnesses for us on the Day of Judgment also. But it's just so inspiring to be outside and read your prayers outside. And like I say, it doesn't have to be on top of a mountain, although I do recommend it. Your garden is just as powerful, especially on a nice day. Take your prayer mat outside, read outside, do your read your Quran afterwards outside, especially in the moment, and he can't get my words out. Fasting brain already. We're not even into week 3 or week 4 yet. What will I be like then? But when obviously a lot of people during Ramadan try harder to read more Quran, don't they, or read more religious text. Don't sit on the sofa. When the weather is nice, you don't have to necessarily sit under the heat of the sun if it makes you thirsty. Sit in the cool shade, but just be outside. And especially with the current situation of, illness being kind of global at the moment, the fresh air is really, really good. Really, really good. To get outside. Maybe you want to go to a nearby park. Maybe you live near a river, but the River Tees runs past all of us, actually.
Yes.
You have no excuse. There's so many benches along the River Tees. You could read there. So much opportunity to just be outside and, connect more with Allah, because, you can't look at nature and not realize, which of Allah's favors does your Lord deny? None. None.
Yeah.
We just have to appreciate. And one of the things that I've realized coming into Islam, I don't know if it's something you realize, but not all Muslim people like to go outside very much. I've learned from my in-laws, from friends. They do a lot of things inside. And at the time of the prophets, peace be upon him, they would have done more things outside because of how,
even
life was then.
The first masjid wasn't really, it was just like...
There was no roof.
Yeah, it was leaves, wasn't it?
So, we should try and get out more. Even the government are currently telling people to open windows and go out more. And I don't always agree with what the government say, but if the government, in this instance of opening the window and saying go on and getting outside, I'll agree on that one. But we should connect with what Allah has told us, and we should be chasing these things instead of. I'll read it again. This world is like a shadow. Run after it, and you will never be able to catch it. Turn your back against it, and it has no choice but to follow you. So I've read that out. Let me just check. We have a message from from, let's have a look. We do have a message. Why isn't it coming up?
Oh, I don't know why it's doing that.
Okay, it's not coming up, so I'll read it out anyway. Oh, it is coming up. It is coming up. Sorry, my mistake. From Sabia Ramiz, and it says, beautiful discussion.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. And thank you for listening as well. If anybody else wants to leave us a message, please do. We like hearing from people, especially now that the phone doesn't have to ring. I was never very good at answering the phone when people used to ring through. So thank you for your messages so far. Okay, I've now lost the one that I was going to read, so I'll go to another one. So this one, let's have a look. This is a hadith. Let's have a look. It's graded Hassan by Sunan ibn Majah, and it says, I'll leave my glasses on. It says, the light of guidance, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever among you wakes up physically healthy, feeling safe and secure within himself with food for the day, it is as if he has acquired the whole world. So there is a lesson there for us to be more grateful for the simple things.
It's the lesson of what is enough, isn't it?
More grateful for the simple things. So I'm going to read it again. And it says, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever among you wakes up physically healthy, feeling safe and secure within himself, with food for the day, it is as if he has acquired the whole world.
Yeah, it's what makes you happy, isn't it? Is it chasing the world, or is it actually, if you just look at what your condition is right now, if you have all of those things, and you're not worrying about the past or the future.
Well, it's like what we were saying a few moments ago, isn't it? That we think we have to acquire fame and fortune and several houses and big cars and stuff to be happy. And this is saying, no, that if you wake up health, I mean, how big is, again, the word health in the current situation that we are in, where the whole world is being locked down because of a pandemic, and health is now something everybody wants to have, more than anything else. Health suddenly became very, very paramount in the last 12 months. And it's bizarre, really, because really we should have been valuing our health long before. It shouldn't, this isn't the first time the globe has been struck down with something. It's throughout history, whether it be a town, a country, or several countries, or even the whole world before. We have had diseases that have ravaged the world prior. This isn't something new. It might be new for us in our lifetime, it might be new for us as individuals, but it's not new to humanity. But we take our health massively for granted, and we abuse our bodies day in, day out, through eating unhealthy, drinking unhealthy, living unhealthy, having an unhealthy environment, and having unhealthy habits, that we then get upset when our body kind of rebels and allows us to get poorly. And then we start looking up to Allah and saying, oh Allah, why has this happened to us? What did I do so wrong? Is this a test? What's happening here? And really, this Allah gave us choices, and Allah mentions certain physical activities in the Quran. He mentions certain foods in the Quran. He mentions types of healing in the Quran. And he says, obviously, one of our ways of healing is through reciting Quran. There is healing in reciting certain ayahs of the Quran. There is healing in asking Allah for healing. If we are sick, we should ask Allah to cure that sickness. And if we hear of somebody else being sick, we should ask for their cure and relief of that sickness also. But one of the ways of ensuring our health is good is by eating the foods that Allah has provided with us. He did not provide drive-thrus.
No.
Okay, He did not provide microwave meals. And at the moment, something that's becoming quite big at the moment, around the world is this what's it called? This genetically modified meat.
All right, yeah.
I don't know if you've heard about it, but there are people who are trying to create meat. They're saying that this, you know, it's another conversation that I'm not going to go into, because that's a whole show. That's a whole show in its own. But there are, even if you look at some vegetarian food, for example, something like corn is a synthetic food. So if you get a vegetable burger which contains vegetables, okay, this is not too bad. It's vegetables, okay. But corn isn't. It's a man-made substance. It's with a few pieces of food added in.
It's a fungus, isn't it?
There's several, there's a lot of different ingredients in there, but they're not fantastic. They're not fantastic at all.
Yeah, to replicate the texture of
meat and the taste of meat,
yeah.
which I've never understood that. Why would somebody who wants to give up meat want to eat something that still tastes like meat? I never understood that concept, but I'm not vegetarian, so it's not a worry for me. But it's something I never understood. But anyway, we have to look at the ways of eating. Now, Ramadan is obviously a huge way of allowing the body to reset itself.
Yeah.
Because when we fast, when we don't fast, our stomachs are constantly engaged in work, because we are constantly eating and drinking something. And even when we go to bed at night, even though we may sleep, the body still is working to digest and process the food and drink from the night and day before. So a lot of energy in our whole body is used up by the stomach having to do its job. When we fast, the stomach gets to switch off completely, and that energy that would be required from the stomach to do its job is now sent around the body to do other things. And at this point, the body can find weaknesses within it. So it may be cancer cells that are starting to grow out of their normal number. It may be maybe you've caught a bug from somewhere and it hasn't appeared yet, but it's entering the body. The body now has this extra energy to fight any illness, any weakness, to repair muscle damage, to repair any...
Or get rid of rubbish cells that are just like ticking over a little bit, but then because your body's stressed and you've got a little bit less food, then it has to streamline itself. So it has to get rid of the cells that aren't really performing very well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it allows the body to... The word detox is thrown out there so much, and I don't think a lot of people understand truly what the word detox means. A lot of people think that what I'll do is I'll give up chocolate and burgers and parmesans for a couple of weeks, and I'll do this detox, and then
I'll drink some tea,
and then I'll drink some green tea, and I'll have a little bottle of water, and kind of this type of thing. I won't add any sugar to that herbal tea either. But then what happens is, a few weeks later, they just go back to the old habits anyway. But in Ramadan, the detox that we have is on a cellular level. So it's not just about cleaning the intestines out from food and kind of the colon areas and allowing the tummy to empty better, but the cells, how the cells rejuvenate, both on the outside and the inside. And as you said there rightly, the cells that are damaged, they are detoxed. It's not just about detoxing from food and from drink, but it's detoxing any illness, any weakness that's in the body. The body has a chance to either repair it. If it can't repair it, it has the chance to get rid of it, to expel it. So this is really, really important. And this is about the health aspect of, and Ramadan is a reminder of healthiness, because we're told that when we eat a meal, again, a meal enough for one will suffice for two. This isn't just about sharing. This is about understanding that you have too much on your plate to begin
portion
with.
Size.
And we know as well, how hard is it when you break your fast? So that hour before, you think, I can't wait to open my fast. I'm going to eat everything. And suddenly even I cut a pineapple up yesterday, actually. And I put it into a tub and I just smelt it. And I don't normally cut up a pineapple and smell it. I normally cut it up and eat it. But because it was during fasting hours,
all you could do was sniff.
I cut it up and I smelled it. I was like, oh, smells amazing. And I took it to my husband. I said, smell this. How amazing does this pineapple smell? You know, just
It's like, oh, thanks for that.
It's just funny. It's funny how we appreciate things more when we're fasting. But we need, you know, the detox that Ramadan offers. And some people, as we know, we give up food and we give up drink. We give up part of our sleep. We give up, a lot of people do it. I've chose to do it this month as well. Other people do it. I'm going on a digital detox. So I've come off social media for a month to allow my attention to be really focused on Ramadan. And I know a lot of other people choose to have a month off social media as well. So the word detox isn't necessarily just a detox or avoid eating unhealthy, but we can detox from other things. It could be from negative people. It can be from social media. It can be from bad habits. It can be from things in our environment which are not good to our health as well. It's limitless.
Yeah.
It can go on. So waking up healthy has to be one of the biggest blessings that you can have. If you're ask somebody who has bad knees and cannot pray and perform the salah on the floor because of their bad knees, how much do they want to just put their head on the floor and be on the floor in their sujood? Ask somebody who has a memory problem and cannot recite the salah because their memory doesn't allow them because of ill health or old age. Ask somebody who cannot break their fast with dates and how nice does watermelon taste in Ramadan? You know, watermelon Ramadan is just another level. But ask somebody who maybe has an allergy to these type of foods and they can't do it. So having your health is like having the whole world, because if you haven't got your health, you can't perform pilgrimage, you can't perform salah, you can't look after somebody else because you can't look after your own self. So it is a huge blessing. Feeling safe.
Yes.
Feeling safe. Now, there are different types of feeling safe. You have our brothers and sisters who are in like Yemen or Syria or the Rohingya Muslims who are...
You can't imagine it, can you?
You can't imagine what they're going through. You know, when you go to bed in an evening and you tuck in your children or your grandchildren or even just yourself and you lie there knowing that you're going to have a peaceful sleep. You don't have to worry that your door's going to be burst down in the middle of the night and an army's going to come in and take away parts of your family.
Yeah.
You don't have to try and sleep lightly while you're listening for, is a bomb going to drop? Am I going to have to try and get out of the neighborhood? You don't have to sleep trying to ignore the noise from guns going off or people shouting for help because their home or their business is being raided. We go to sleep
relatively
peacefully, knowing that we don't have the concerns of some others. So being able to go to sleep feeling safe and wake up feeling safe, how much of a blessing is that? And again, the sleep, being able to sleep, what the body does when we sleep, it rejuvenates itself while we sleep. It restores anything that needs restoring. It balances itself back out. You know, any repair that needs doing, the stresses from the day, mentally, physically, they get to restore and relax. And the blessing of being able to sleep. There are people who can't have a good night's sleep because maybe they have bladder issues or bowel issues where they have to constantly keep getting up. So their sleep is not quality sleep. There are people who suffer from something like insomnia or sleep apnea. There are people who, maybe as mothers who are breastfeeding and the child is waking up several times, or they're nursing a child who is sick, or another relative. You don't appreciate a good night's sleep until you go a week without having a good night's sleep.
Like, I want it back.
It makes a massive difference. So feeling safe and having that sleep, feeling safe is huge, is huge. And then the last one, it says having food for the day. Having food for the day. How many people go to sleep empty
Yeah.
and wake up knowing they don't even know if they're going to get some food or water that day at all. They may search for it. They may lose a loved one because of it. They may themselves get ill because of it, and not knowing where your next meal is coming from. I watched a film with my children a few months ago. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's about an African boy called William Kamkwamba, and the film is called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. And it's based on a true story. And he's in adulthood now, but it's based on him when he was a child. And he lived, I forget where he lived. I think it was Zimbabwe or, well, I can't quite remember, but it was somewhere in Africa. And there was a political, as there always is, there was a political issue, and food was cut off to the village. And they wrongfully, because of money, because of how people can be bought, how easily people can be bought with money these days. Even we see it all around us now. People are given money and they'll do anything for money. And the people who were in control of the village took money from the government to take some trees away. And when they took the trees away, their harvest got flooded.
Right, yeah.
So they lost their food. And one by one, people started leaving the village because they had now nowhere to grow the crops. And then the village became dry, so then they had no water, and it just cycled. This situation cycled. And I remember then their house, the Williams' house, got raided, and the little bit of food that they did have was stolen by other people who were hungry. There was metal on the roof, and they took the metal off the roof, and they put hatched hay instead, and they sold the metal to buy food. But ultimately, it came to the point where they had very little food left, and he had several brothers and sisters, including a baby, and they had to make the decision of eating one meal a day and deciding whether that meal was in the morning or the evening, because they were completely out of food. And they were all going to have to live on this. And it was a small meal as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big lavish meal. It was a very small meal. And the film ended where he taught himself how to rummage through the rubbish dumps and build basically he managed to get a little motor going which powered a windmill, which powered the underground well, which then watered the crops, and the harvest came. So he kind of saved his village this way. But the part that I remember is sitting down with his family and this very small bowl in front of them, and the father saying, "This is going to be our meal every day. Decide when you want it." And all of their hands had to go into that one bowl.
Right.
And it was very powerful. So when you read something like that says, when you wake up and you have food for the day, there are people out there who don't. And there's a difference as well in between the quality of food, because we might think, well, our neighbors have food. Everybody I know here in the UK has food. But what about the quality of food as well?
Yes.
There are people who are very skilled and can grow their own, which I wish was me. I have a lot of respect for people who know how to grow their own food. But, this is obviously the purest form of food if you can grow it yourself. If you can't grow it yourself, we have the supermarkets. But there are people who have to permanently live on tinned, processed. And it's food, and it's keeping them alive. It's keeping them sustained. But ultimately, it's not feeding their health. It's not giving them... It's not meeting the minerals, the vitamins, the nutritional quality of something that's more fresh, or as fresh as we can get our hands on, compared to something that's tinned.
It's the additives as well, isn't it? Yeah.
Then the preservatives they have to put in because it has a lifespan of 10 years. If your food is going to outlive you, it's definitely questionable. But we have to be really concerned about these things. So not only is it a case of, does somebody have food to wake up to, but do they have a good quality of food? Do they have enough food to give them the strength to perform whatever it is they need to do that day? Do they have the right types of food to feed their health, to keep them healthy, to not promote ill health? I mean, I saw an advert a few weeks ago. It was an American advert. and everything crazy always comes from America. But it said that basically what it was saying was that Krispy Kreme would give a free donut daily for 1 year to everybody that had the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, I don't know if this is a true advert or not, but I saw it. And my first thought was, forget whether you think the vaccine is right or wrong. My focus was a donut a day.
Yeah.
I mean, as nice as they are, but a day.
A day, yeah.
You know, surely Asda could have, or Tesco could have said, you know what, we'll give you an apple a day, or we'll give you a carrot a day, or, you know, something like that. But no, a donut a day for everybody who takes the vaccine. And my initial thought was, right, it's no secret that sugar lowers your immune system. Okay. So if you have a donut a day, that's going to compromise your immune system. And you do not want your immune system compromised if there is a risk of any type of disease, illness, or as we are currently in a pandemic, you don't want your immune system compromised. You want it optimized.
Yes.
So
Less sugar.
offering a donut a day just to me, and I just thought, but it shows the mentality of how we are today, how we value this sugar-coated donut more than we appreciate an apple that contains fiber and certain amounts of vitamins and will give our body strength over this sugar donut, which will give our body weakness.
It's funny, isn't it? Because it's like that apple also has sugar in it, but because it's got all those other fibers with it, and those fibers actually protect our bodies from the bad effects of sugar and actually mean that that sugar ends up where it's supposed to be, because it's actually, the sugar in it isn't for us, it's for the microbes that live in our gut. That's what we're supposed to be feeding. Whereas if you eat something that's got like actually frank sugar coated in it, it gets absorbed and it ends up in our system.
Well, the thing is anyway that sugar is not all created equally, you know, and we have to remember that for example, I remember talking to somebody who had been diagnosed with diabetes, and she said to me, oh, I don't eat fruit anymore because there's too much sugar in it, and she had a Snicker bar in her hand. And I just looked and I thought, you have no concept of how ironic your statement just is.
Yeah.
You've give up sugar you give up fruit because of the sugar content, but you're eating a Snicker bar which has got 5,000 calories. I don't even know what sugars are in there, but it's going to be way more than your apple anyway.
Yeah. Fruit, although it tastes sweet, actually it doesn't have a lot of actual sugar in it because most of our fruit is tart fruit, isn't it?
So, but the sugar in our food, the naturally occurring sugar, is not what we need to be afraid of. It's the process.
It's the process taken out of its natural packaging. Isn't
sugar that we need to be conscious of. I meant to read that out again, but I put it down.
30 something, I think,
was it?
38, was it?
Let me just see if I can find it quickly, because I do like to repeat. Yes, it was. Well, good memory and good eyesight for an optician. Mashallah.
Good memory for numbers. I normally can't remember numbers.
I'm going to read that one more time. It says, the light of guidance, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever among you wakes up physically healthy, feeling safe and secure within himself with food for the day, it is as if he has acquired the whole world. So that is actually our time. I can't believe that we have just spoke for 2 hours.
I can't believe it either. There you go.
I feel like I've been in here just 5 minutes.
Chilling.
I don't feel like I've been here 2 hours at all. I hope our listeners didn't feel like it was 2 hours either.
Hope not.
We have Sister Sabia's coming in now. She's going to be talking for until 6 o'clock. She's going to be with you with guidance of the Deen. And so please stay tuned to listen to Sister Sabia. I hope you enjoyed our show today, which was based on old advice in modern times of Islamic quotes over modern day memes. I hope that was beneficial to you. Anything that was correct and of benefit is from Allah, and any mistake or accident in our words is from us. So Allah accept it and forgive us at the same time. Please do join us next week. We will be back next Sunday at 3 o'clock, 3 till 5 next Sunday. We have a few more shows with you this Ramadan, and Inshallah, have a great week. Allah accept everybody's fasts, everybody's intentions. Please stay healthy, safe, and happy, and content that you are a Muslim, that Allah chose you to be a Muslim and chose you and give you the opportunity to earn your place in Jannah. Ameen, inshallah. So please take care. Have a fabulous week. And we will be back with you soon, inshallah. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Live from the heart of Middlesbrough, this is CVFM Ramadan Live.
अब हम धीरे धीरे लॉकडाउन से बाहर आ रहे हैं। घर से बाहर 6 लोगों तक के ग्रुप में या